It's all for you. Yeah, yo. There whenever it matters, and even more when you feel like it doesn't. Protect you so you never feel like you wasn't. Know I'm right alongside you. Either that or I'm behind you, but always got you. End of discussion, nothing means more. First one to offer is shoulders for what you reach for. Thought I saw the eyes of the world until I seen yours. And know that I ain't see a better view yet. I'm with whatever, so don't ever you fret. Know that you covered, not a hurdle or a heartbreak. A change what a partake, cause none of them won't ever get comfortable in your walkway. My job is to aware you, fully loaded, prepare you for all of the above that I'm never letting get near you. But still in all, give you every advantage I found. Couldn't find a better fit for them, along with my crown. And since the baton was passed, I've been down. Cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all.
Welcome everybody. My name is Ishmael from Dad Is Not a Noun. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm doing well. My guest is doing well. September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and I'm truly privileged and honored to have Sophrona McLennen. She created the Zoefia Alexandria Foundation in the memory of her daughter, Zoe Alexander, who passed away at the age of 6 years old on Christmas Day, 2019 from brain cancer. So, Sophrona, thank you for coming on. How you doing?
I'm good.
How are you feeling? How's Wella doing?
Actually, I'm doing better than expected. Because this Friday is her birthday, so it's a emotional week. But yes,
that's good. But how's Wella doing?
I'm doing good.
Okay. I was talking about your mom, Zoe's grandmother. How she's doing?
Oh, my mom is doing good.
She's doing good.
She's good. Yeah.
But did I get that pronunciation right? Wella, or did I get it wrong?
Grandma. Mean is her name, but yeah, no, she's doing good.
That's good. First thing I want to ask you, people act like the pandemic is over, but I want to ask you in the beginning, what have you learned about yourself through the pandemic?
Wow, the pandemic. I feel what I've learned is that you have to just live for today, whatever it is that you want to do. You should just do it. You should just try it. You shouldn't wait. The foundation was launched in the middle of a pandemic when the country was shutting down. Here I am. Oh, we're launching on Easter Sunday. And I wasn't changing. I wasn't stopping. I know some people told me to wait a year. Some people said, why are you going to do it now? And I said, this is the time. Shut down or no shutdown, we're going to launch. So, I just feel that right now people should just do what they want to do what you love to do what you're passionate about. And I feel if the pandemic didn't show you that or teach you that, or if you didn't learn something about yourself, then you're probably never going to learn, not to be just blunt about it, but, it's like now is the time. What are you waiting for?
Definitely. And then also, why the color green? Why color green so significant to the foundation?
It's significant because that is Zoe's color. My daughter, Zoefia Alexandria, loved green. Green was her color. My favorite color is pink. For her, it had to be green. Quick story, she was doing ballet. I went out. I was so excited. I went out and bought all pink leotard, pink ballet slippers. And I'm like, ooh, she got all dressed up. Then she told me, sit down, we need to talk. I said, what? Here I am all excited. She's all in pink, She said, sit down, we need to talk. Then she said, all pink? My color is green. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But she said to me in her exact words was, I don't want to disappoint you because I know you love me so much, but I don't like pink. Green is my color. And I was like, wow. And that was her exact words. And from that moment on, I'm just like, wow, everything had to be green. I knew she loved green, but I didn't know how much she loved it. But for me, I told her that I felt that I love the fact that she was her own individual. She wanted to do what she wanted to do, and she knew what she loved. She knew what she wanted, and I couldn't force her, you know? So I got told off.
But also just talk about that as a, a proud mother. Like at that early age, she knew what she liked, because sometimes kids at the early age are so indecisive. They're like, oh, I like green one day, and then the next day they like blue. But yeah, just talk about that. Just as a mother, like she kind of knew, not kind of, she knew that's her color, and you weren't going to change her mind.
She knew, and she picked out green things. For little girls, it's hard to find green. I did try to shop and buy. I didn't care what brand it was. I just bought it because it was green, but it was limited, But after that day that she told me that, I'm like, wow, I try to find everything green. Like I knew she loved green, but things were limited, but I did buy a lot of pink because that's my color. But yeah, I got put in my place proper. But everything had to be green. I know she got an Easter basket one time and it had these pink peeps. And I have the video on my phone, and she said, this is not for me. They bought this for you. I like it. She always knew and always expressed that. But I love that about her, because it's like, you just can't change who she was,
And it seemed like from the conversation I'm having from you is that at an early age, she was very observant about everything she saw. And then also she didn't hold anything back. She told you how she felt.
Yes, she always did. And it was in a nice way, in a sweet voice, but it came out very direct and precise. So she was very articulate.
That's awesome. And then also, last year was her 7th birthday.
Right.
I'm gonna play this video for you. I found it on your YouTube page. I'm gonna bring it up. Let's see. Take me back to this day last year.
Oh, wow.
As a mother, seeing your daughter on a Times Square billboard.
It was exciting, I remember we were driving down that was it 42nd, and I saw it, and I'm like, oh, Zoe, and I immediately started crying because I was in the passenger seat, and I'm like, oh my God, like, look at Zoe. So it's a proud moment, but it was a sad one, but it was a proud one, but it was exciting, and it just showed who she was. Like, she was just very bright and had so much to share. She was an inspiration, and this is gonna go on and on and on, and it's you can't even really put into words how you feel. So
yeah, definitely. It's awesome because normally when you see billboards of people, it's usually famous people, and to just see how your daughter is in the middle of Times Square where everyone can see. And I think that kind of, like, from what we've talked about so far, that like goes with her personality, outgoing, vibrant. You wouldn't even know that, she's struggling inside because she exuded so much positivity to everybody she was around.
Yeah. She was Zoe was a special girl, and there's just so many stories within stories, and I just feel like she was an angel. She was here for a short period of time, and so much things that she's taught me and things that she's told me, it's like it's playing out now, and things that didn't make sense back then, it's making sense now. So it's almost like she was ahead of her time. Like, she knew, I didn't know, but she knew.
Oh, so. Wow. And like, take me back to when Zoe was born. Take me back to that time when you held her in your arm.
It was exciting, it was my first child, my only child. And I remember when they gave her to me, I was like, oh, she peed on me immediately. I have that photo. It's like it was a special moment. I will always remember that moment. There's a lot of special moments with her, I never knew in a million years that I would just get 6 years. This was unexpected. Everything that came after was unexpected,
And as a baby, was she just a happy baby? Because I know when I was growing up, I was a baby that always screamed a lot, crying all the time for food, just crying, just to cry. Like, how was she like as a baby?
She was a happy baby. She was a sweet baby. She was very loving. She really, honestly, she gave no trouble. Even throughout the pregnancy, I had what I thought was an easy pregnancy. I went walking every day. I was walking 5 to 10 miles a day, eating whatever I wanted to eat. I never had any issues. So it was almost like everything else was great. And then it led up to something else. But Zoe never gave trouble,
And then over time, take me back to when you found out that she had that rare cancer.
That honestly, that like just gets me upset. Like that moment, we'll go back to it because I think that it's important. And I feel like people in general just need to understand their child and notice changes and not just go based on the doctor says, because honestly, you tend to lose some respect for some of these people in the medical field because they like to play God. I know with Zoe, my mom, because my mom actually lives in Florida. She doesn't live in New York. When I had Zoe, she came up and then she was helping me with her. And over time, it was like she just stopped eating. I think it was about 6 months she stopped eating. Couldn't figure out what was going on. Now, me as a mom, I'm like, I was a new mom, and I'm like, what's going on? I took her to the emergency room. Like, we went to different doctors, tried different things, but I bought every food on the market. Like, I literally bought one of everything, and she just wouldn't really eat it. And over time, it was like the doctor said that, oh, she had a behavioral problem, because it started progressing where she was just drinking. And, when you're not eating as a child, you tend to lose weight. She was already thin, I went to every specialist to figure out why she's not eating. They told me she needs to go into a feeding program and she needed feeding therapy. All along, my daughter was sick, and it got to the point that this wasn't really detected until she was 2.
Wow.
So it was like a back and forth struggle with her eating and not eating certain things. I'm a picky eater. I don't eat certain things that I never did as a kid, and I would never eat it now. But people were saying, "Oh, well, you're picky. Maybe she's picky." I'm like, she's a little picky because she's not really eating certain things.
Right.
So the doctor told me she had a behavioral problem. That was strike 1. So that completely pissed me off. So all along, she was having this brain tumor. So she kept hitting herself in the head.
Right.
And she's saying it was a behavioral issue. And come to find out later on, when we found out that it was cancer, she was having extreme pain while she kept doing that,
Right.
So it's just a sad situation where something could have been detected earlier on. Right. And what led up to this moment, I was at work, and my mom said to me, Zoe didn't look too good. And I'm like, what's going on? She was having trouble walking and stuff like that. So I'm like, let me bring her to the pediatrician. So I went to a different pediatrician because the other one, I was just done with her.
Right.
So I went to that pediatrician, and, I'm thinking, oh, she sprained her leg or something, because she liked to dance. Right. So all along, when she's having this brain tumor, she was still doing things as a normal kid, So going to a pediatrician, So she ordered lab work. She did range of motion, everything. She's like, she didn't really see anything. She's not sure what's going on. She took labs. So this was like a Friday. And then we wouldn't get the labs back until Monday. So then Saturday now, she couldn't stand up. So I'm like, what is going on? So my mom was like, oh, she's not standing up. So I'm like, okay, we go to the emergency room. It's like, what is happening? I didn't know that I was going to get the news that I got. First, we went to the emergency room. I said, I'm not going to say the hospital that I was going to first. The hospital that I took her to first, every week for a month, and they sent me home, told me to leave. They threw me out the hospital, and I went back. Oh, you're a new mom. One doctor laughed at me. Oh, you're a new mom. Send me home. Nothing is wrong with her. Meanwhile, the cancer was progressing. So here we are now, not too far off from when it was detected. You know, we went to the emergency room. I actually went to St. Mary's. I said, I heard St. Mary's was good. They had a feeding program and everything. So I went to St. Mary's. I'm like, why is the parking lot so empty? You know, I'm like, it was weird. So I saw a lady. I said, where's the emergency room? She was like, oh, this is not really a hospital with an emergency room. This is where kids come for a long-term stay. I said, oh, okay. So I'm like, where is the hospital? She sent me to a local children's hospital. So I'm like, thank you. I turned around, the woman was gone. So I'm like, I said, okay, so we go to the hospital now that I've never heard of. So I had to put in my navigation. We went there. Waited 5.5 hours in the emergency room because I don't know what was happening that day, and it was just packed. So we waited 5.5 hours only to find out that she had a brain tumor. It spread down her spine. So she had a big tumor in her tailbone. She also, it blocked the spinal fluid. So the spinal fluid wasn't going down, so it was backing up on her brain. Now there's really nowhere for it to go, so she kept like getting sleepy. So the doctor at 3:00 in the morning said they had to do emergency brain surgery, and she had a day to live. And then my mom said, what? We need a second opinion. And his exact words, she's gonna die. And I was like, you know. So that's when the journey started. Yeah.
Wow.
So she had emergency surgery. They drained her brain to get the fluid out because he said that she was falling asleep. She could have fell asleep and just never woke up, you know? So, so she had that, and then she had 8 months of chemotherapy, 3 stem cell transplant. She had several brain surgeries. She was cancer-free. Then like a year later, it came back. Then she was cancer-free again. Then a year later, it came back. But the third time, it just wasn't, she had different trial drugs. Like it started to go away. Like it would get smaller, it would shrink a little, and then it would start growing again. So we used a different trial drug. Then it would shrink a little, then it would start growing, and got to the point where she had ended up, 2019 was just a nightmare because that, I think it was February 3rd or 4th, we went into the emergency room. You know, she told me she wanted to go to the hospital. Like, she didn't look too good. Like, she had trouble walking. So I'm like, you know, like, wow. And that's one of the signs too, like, it affects walking, it affects balance, it affects speech, it affects eating, it affects a lot of things. So we went to the hospital, and she hates hospital. Like, I don't like hostable is what she call it. I don't like hostable. And then when she's asking me to take her to the hospital, I'm like, oh my God. So, you know, we went there, and then the next day she ended up on life support. They gave her 3 days to live. So, and she fell in a coma. She woke up, and she still had the cancer. It didn't go away, but it was going away. Then that's where, you know, in 2019. After waking up from a coma, she had to relearn how to walk and talk and use her hands because her body was completely deconditioned because she was in a coma for so long. So, it's been a journey. Along the journey too, it's like the third time the cancer came back, they told me, they can't do anything for her. Now, that's the worst thing in the world. I basically, I didn't know what to do with myself. Like, I came home and we laying in the bed crying for like a day. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm like, I'm not built for this. So I said, I'm going to find a doctor. I'm going to find a hospital. I mean, I'll cry for a day. And then after that, I was like, I wrote to every major hospital in the country, email every major hospital in the country, got her into a study. And then that's what kind of really helped her that time around. I had more time with her because I could have lost a whole year.
Right.
So I feel like, medically, there's only so much her body could have taken, like she had just so much. And it's like, you literally, when they say you're running out of time, like I there was nothing more I could have done,
Right.
So that was the cancer journey, the brief version.
No, that was on point. But how did community play a role in helping you? Because I know this couldn't be a fight alone. So talk about how the community embraced and helped you through that journey.
Well, community-wise, you have friends, you have family, but to be honest, some family I don't even speak to anymore. Some friends I don't even speak to anymore because when there's a problem, people disappear. In the beginning, it's like text, how are you doing? How you doing? And then after a week, it's like I don't see you.
Right.
So as the journey goes on, you lose like real family, but then you gain family through other families. Like you get to know other families, you get to know other people, then you see who your real friends are, like who's actually real.
Right.
So during the journey, I wasn't even home a lot. I spent a lot of time at the Ronald McDonald House. We actually stayed there when she had chemotherapy because it was right next door to the hospital. So we'll go there. If the chemo cycle was like 2 weeks to a week, we'll stay there for 2 weeks, then come home for 2 weeks. But we spent a lot of time there. Like for a good 8 months, I wasn't even staying at my place. Like I came back and forth, to like get clothes, pay bills, but I had never stayed here. So, we stayed at the Ronald McDonald House. You get to learn about other families. There's other organizations that will help you with different things if you need help in that sense. That's why the foundation today is important. That's why I created those programs, because I've actually lived the nightmare and I know behind the scenes what's needed and what we can help with and what people actually want to do, So I felt it was important to actually give back because that's really what it's about,
Definitely. And it's just crazy how like complete strangers just out of the blue willing to help. Like you were saying, like you think you have family members that's going to be there and they're not there. And then someone that you never met or just come out of the blue say, you know what? I relate. I want to help you. How can I help you? So it's like talk about how faith, church, and then also talk about how like Uncle Mike came into the picture. Yes.
Brother Mike, actually, I go to church in Queens. I go to New Jerusalem Church in Queens. So Brother Mike he goes to my brother's church. So they had a couple of functions, I think, with my nephew Alexander. I think he got baptized, and a couple other functions that we went to. So that's how we actually met him. But he's, he's very easygoing. It's like when you speak to him, you feel like you've just known him a long time. Like he's very understanding. He listens. So Brother Mike is, one of those cool dudes that was just like, yeah, like he never gets tired of hearing the story, and it's like, he's he's been helpful along the way.
Definitely. And can you talk about the story? Like, I think you told me off the phone a little bit that he was there when I think it was when your daughter was gone.
Yes. Zoe passed away. They declared her brain dead, and then they wanted me to take her off life support. I couldn't do it. So they had set up a time. They set up a day that they were going to do it. And I'm like, because she's on life support. Her vitals, when you look on the screen, everything was like to perfection, like a normal child. So I'm like, how can I take her off life support? Like, I personally couldn't do it. I said, I'm not doing it. So they talk about, oh, we can, take you to court and get a court order. I said, do whatever you have to do. If I have to be forced, then you guys can make that decision. I wasn't going to do it, So that Sunday, the whole thing was just, when I think back, I had a lot of family and people there, and they were going to take her off life support on the Monday. Right. Every day was so crazy at the hospital. I'm like, it's just so crazy. Like, I want these moments with my daughter. So that Sunday, I told family and friends, I'm like, I don't want anybody here. I said, this is my day. It's my time with my child. It was just too much. Because, when people come to the hospital, it's like, oh, this question and that question. And they start talking and as if they're oblivious to what's going on and they don't understand, So I wanted that day. So I had set that time aside. I know my brother went to church. So him and brother Mike, they were at church, and he was coming that day. But then it was weird because her vitals was like getting crazy. So I'm like, oh. I said, what's going on? So then my brother was coming. I said, Zoe, please. I was like, don't. I said, not yet. I was like, wait a little bit. Wait for uncle,
Right.
So do you know that everything kind of stabilized? I was like, oh, I was like, you're still in there. Because, in my mind, she wasn't going anywhere, Like, I was still hoping and praying that she would wake up.
Right.
So, they get there, and it's like everything went crazy again. Right. And then her heart stopped on its own. So she took that burden from me because I couldn't do it. So she actually passed away Christmas Sunday, which was the 22nd. Right. Yeah.
Wow. And that's wow. Yeah. But like, take me to that moment, not that moment, but take me to that day when you had that time. It was just her and you.
It was her, me, my mom, and my brother was there also, but it was just time with her, to just be with her, and to, it was just to just lay in the bed next to her and just be with her for the last moments. So even after her heart stopped, we still had to, advocate for her. Like, she had to get a bath. She had to be primed. I did her nails. My mom gave her a bath. She got dressed and was, off to the funeral home with respect,
Right. And wow. And it's just to show that, in her passing, that so many people that was important in her life was there. And so I felt personally that it was okay for her to go, because she had you, her grandmother, like the important people that's been a part of her life, her journey, they were there.
Honestly, who needs to be there was there. Like, some people who were not there, then it's And it really didn't matter to me. Like, my focus is my daughter, you know? And people forget that, okay, she's the focus. She's the one that's sick, you know? People get caught up in themselves and then get selfish, and it's like they want to be catered to. I'm not here to cater to people. I'm here to cater to my child. So if you don't want to be there for her, you don't want to be there for us. And I don't really need somebody to be there for me. But where she was concerned, if you don't want to show up for her, then, you know, the way I see it, if you're not Team Zoe, I'm not Team nothing for you.
That's facts. And let's go back a little bit. Take me back to her preschool graduation.
Whew. So graduation, that was a very special day. You know, she woke up from a coma. She couldn't do certain things, and her body was so deconditioned. You know, we had to play little games, and we did a lot of Play-Doh and stuff for her to be able to use her hands and to do stuff. That's why with her logo, I don't know if you can see, like, her logo, this is her last signature that came with my card, you know? So that was her last signature. So it's important to me. So she had to relearn how to write her name. She was going to a preschool. She was so excited to go back to school, and she couldn't walk. She went in her stroller. And like the first day she was going back, she was excited. And she said, I hope my friends, you know, are going to be okay. They're not going to be impressed because I'm in the stroller. I said, Zoe, everybody's going to be happy to see you. Like, she used to use these words. I'm like, where's this coming from? You know, I said, everybody's going to just be happy to see you. They're going to always be impressed. And she went there and she's like, I'm here. And you know, I'm going to tell you, she woke up from a coma like a completely different kid.
Wow.
It was like she was more outgoing. She was more vocal. She was more like, you know.
Right.
So we went home. We were in the hospital in February. We went home sometime in April. Graduation was in June. So in April, to June, she couldn't walk. So she was regaining strength and therapy to walk. That was another issue too. They sent me home. They wanted me to put her in a rehab. I'm like, I'm not putting my child that has, you know, it could be immune compromised in some dirty, dusty rehab facility. And I'm not leaving. She was never left alone. So I wasn't leaving my child in a dirty rehab. Right. And, you know, so they sent us home. We were happy to get out the hospital. And then when I came home, it was like I had to find physical therapy on my own. That was delayed. And that made me angry too, because it was like, this is time wasted, you know? So at that time, she still had some cancer on the spine. She still had some cancer there. She wasn't walking. Right. So it seemed like things were going away. She started to do certain things where she can walk, but she had to be supported. Right. And, you know, one day, like she used to love my bedroom. She has her own room, but she was obsessed with my room and, you know, my bed, the mama bed. She was always in my bed. So, you know, she was in here and the door was closed. So I'm like, you know, I was kind of pushed in. So I'm like peeking and I'm like, what is she up to? When I look in the room, she's walking around the bed with her hands around the bed. Wow. And I'm like, Zoe. She's like, oh, it was supposed to be a surprise. And I'm like, wow. So she was practicing. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And, you know, we went to school. I was telling her teacher and she was like, wow. And then she spoke to Zoe and she said, you know, if you can walk by graduation, you're going to lead the class out. And she practiced. She wanted to lead the class out. So she walked the class out. She had to be supported. But honestly, after that, it was like she couldn't really walk again. Right. You know, it was a crazy moment because it's almost like she walked for that moment and that moment in time. And then it's like, wow, you know?
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, just as a mother perspective, just tell me that moment in time, seeing your daughter in the graduation outfit, the hat, and walking, like just through a mother's perspective, just tell me how you felt that day.
I was proud is not even the word. I was beyond proud of her. You know, it's like just seeing her, how she was in a hospital bed, on a ventilator, in a coma. She even had a stroke. It was, so many things happened. And then for her to define the odds and to wake up, you know, which was just a crazy time in the hospital altogether because, you know, they said she's not going to make it. She's not going to make it. So, you know, there was a lot of words back and forth with medical professionals to let them know that they're not God. If it's not her time, it's not her time,
Right.
you know? So for her to wake up and to have to relearn how to walk, relearn how to do certain things, and to have that moment and for it to just actually be recorded, that's forever a special moment for me to just look back and just see her in that, you know, that was just her moment to shine. And she went through so much and she wanted to do it. Like she was practicing on her own to surprise. You know, that's why I tell people too, like my proudest moments of her is just who she was when no one was watching her.
Wow.
You know, it's not even, you know, like there's clips of her on the news and different things. Like that's not my proud moment.
Right.
My proudest moment is seeing my daughter practicing and doing things when no one is watching her. Because that's when she was really trying and fighting and determined to walk, practicing walking around the bed, walking and holding on to the wall. You know, one morning I was going to work and my work schedule was a little crazy because it was to accommodate her. So depending on medical appointments, I would either go in early in the morning, later. So I got up one morning and it was like, I think 5:30 in the morning. She's walking along the wall.
Right.
And I'm like, Dylan, what are you doing? Go to my playroom. You know, she had a playroom with all her kitchen and her toys, and she held onto the wall and, you know, she went and she played. She had to hold on to something to walk, but, you know, when she was tired or she couldn't, she was just crawl around. But she made it to her playroom, and I was like, wow, you know.
Right.
Then the medication that she was on, stopped working. So when the cancer started to progress and it was on her spine, it, you know, she couldn't walk. And, you know, I know we ended up, she had said to me she wanted to go to the beach house. So I'm like, beach house? She's like, we need a holiday. I'm like, yeah, that was her thing when she wanted to get away. I need a holiday. I'm like, what? She told my mom. She said, me and Mama need a holiday. So I was like, okay. So I'm like, so there's a beach house, and there's a children's foundation in Maryland, Believe in Tomorrow, where you could stay at the beach house for a week. So we went there once, and then she wanted to go back. So I said, let me see if the house is available. So it was available. You know, we went. And on the way, you know, we got in the car. I started driving, like literally 5 minutes from the house. She was like, she looked out the window. Oh, that's it. The end of Zoe. So I said, what? I said, the end of Zoe? I'm like, what are you saying? I'm like, don't say that, you know, but I didn't know that, it was the beginning of the end,
Right.
you know, because that was in September. So we had that moment together at the beach, and we spent time together there, and then we came back, and then, you know, I had something. We had like a family function in Atlanta. We went to Atlanta, and you know, I asked the doctor, I'm like, is she okay to travel? Oh yeah, she's good.
Right.
We went to Atlanta, and you know, then we were in Florida, And while in Florida, like she puked and aspirated.
Wow.
And then we end up in a children's hospital there, which that was crazy in itself too, because she had a pulse ox, so she was connected to gadgets that could always check the oxygen, especially after being on life support.
Right.
So you know, she knew how to work the machine, because sometimes she's like, "That's so annoying." I'm gonna turn it off. So I'm like, "What are you?" So, you know, we always had it, and it got to the point, I'm like, "Yeah, do we really need to?" But she was always connected to it.
Right.
So she was aspirating, like the numbers were not going back up. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's a call the ambulance." And they took like a year. It felt like a year and a day. So I'm like running from the front door, running back to the bedroom. We get to the hospital now. They took x-rays and said that she aspirated. There was some fluid on her lungs, you know. So we had to be helicoptered to another hospital. And then we were there, and then she ended up on life support again. So I'm like, "Oh my God." But then, you know, on the way to these things, she said that again. I was like, "That's it. The end of Zoe." And I'm like, I said, "Why did you say that?"
Right.
So it's like she knew, you know. And from there, you know, I was in Florida at the Children's Hospital. I'm like, we have to get back to New York. That was another struggle because of health insurance, to transfer from one hospital to another. If they feel like the level of service that you're receiving is comparable, they're not going to send you. I'm like, "Listen, we got to get to New York, you know, and if she's going to go, we're not going in Florida." So we had to go back and forth, which I had to appeal. And I'm like the appeal queen now, because you know, with health insurance, I had to do so many appeals along the journey. But, you know, we got out of Florida. They put her on a private jet, flew her into Jersey, got her back into the hospital. And it was just like, she never came off life support. You know, like she was still awake when we could communicate. And it kind of took me back to when she was first diagnosed, that, you know, she fell asleep and just never woke up. So it's kind of the same thing. They gave her medication that was supposed to help her, supposed to make you sleepy for a couple of days, and then you wake up. And it was like she just was not waking up. And every day I'm like checking her eyes and checking, and she never woke up. So it was almost like she fell asleep, kind of went back into a coma, and she never woke up.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's the story with that.
And but before I'm just so tongue tied because it's just so emotional.
Yeah.
That's one thing a parent should never have to go through, is burying their kid. It should be their kid burying their child. And for her to be that young, you know, full of life, full of exuberance, you know, she probably could have been the president of the United States one day.
Yeah,
the first woman.
You know, she's very vocal to be whoever she wanted to be.
Right. But, it's up to you if you feel comfortable to talk about it. But what was the last words she said to you before, you know, they gave her the medication? She fell asleep and never woke up.
You know, it's basic that, you know, you tell her that you love her, and she says that she loves me, but I never expected her to, you know, to not wake up. So it was never a goodbye, you know. Zoe has always defined odds. Every time they put a timestamp on her life, she always woke up, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Before we end this amazing conversation, you know, you're like She-Ra to me. Seriously,
I
you're
don't
a
feel like
she.
hero,
You're a
but
she hero in my eyes. Um, Tell me about the foundation and what you want people to know about the foundation and know the life that Zoe, the legacy of your daughter Zoe.
well, for Zoe, the foundation, when she passed away, I really, it was never in my thought process to do a foundation. And then when she passed away, I'm like, oh my God, I have to do something. Like, I literally took 3 months to myself away from everybody and just put the website together. I did, the paperwork and stuff like that. And I said, I'm going to start this. And that's why when the country was shutting down, it was like, the 501c3 came in, things came in, and I'm like, oh, we are official. So like, we're going to launch, and the foundation was really to give back, because along the journey, like, we got to do certain things because of other foundations, like with Make-A-Wish sending us to Hawaii. That was her wish. And it was like, we got to experience certain things because of other foundations. I think it's important to give back. So I started this, and I figured we keep her memory and her legacy alive. We can also help cancer families. We help families directly. I have put 7 programs because I felt that was things that are important. And I don't do research. If there's ever a time when there's a research for her particular disease, which is penoblastoma, if there's ever a research specifically for that, then I would consider that at that time. But right now, all our funding go directly back to the families.
Right.
So, but the foundation, we've been in existence for a year and a half. We're having an event on Saturday. Well, Friday is her birthday. She would have been 8, so it's her 8th heavenly birthday. So I had this idea to go Lime. I know last year we were in Times Square. It was everything was shut down. You couldn't really have a function, so we kind of just celebrated in the street. We had gift bags in the street. People had the opportunity to speak and to say different things, and we just celebrated with friends and family that were there throughout the journey. And then I figured this year it's her birthday, it's Childhood Cancer Month. We're not going back to Times Square.
Right.
I'm like, what could we do? So I have this idea. It's like, you know what? Life give you lemons. But I'm like, yeah, we're green. We're going to go Lime. Awesome. So I decided to go Lime, and we're having this event. But the event, it's not your typical, because I feel like with Zoe, she was fashion. She was a lot of things, so we are launching. I know last year we did a 7-piece nail polish collection for her 7th birthday. This year we're doing an 8-piece collection. Wow. So we have 8 new shades. I'm also launching 8-piece lip gloss, and it's beauty for a cause. All of the proceeds go back to the foundation, which goes back to the families. So it's kind of setting the foundation up to kind of just sustain itself.
Right.
And also be true to Zoe. Like, she loved to do her nails. She did her nails in the hospital. She loved lip gloss. She loved fashion. We wore a lot of headpieces. She also had a shunt in her head, which kind of regulated the fluid.
Right.
But she wore a lot of turbans and a lot of headbands. And then there was times with chemo, her hair was thin. Her hair was different length because of that. So hats and headpieces we wore a lot of. So we're launching that this weekend. This is one of the hats. It's a green fedora. Thank you. It's 100% velour. Like, we have cashmere beanies. It's 100% cashmere. So all the pieces, they're really, like luxury pieces. It's not a little, I don't want to say cheapy, but it's luxury pieces. The lip glosses are organic. They're cruelty free. They're made in the USA. The nail polish is the same. It's cruelty free. It's made in the USA. So they're good products, and it's, beauty for a cause, fashion for a cause, and that's our brand within the foundation.
And it's awesome, and you're doing great work. And anything
Thank
you need
you.
help with, let me know. I'll help.
Well,
Did I
thank
do Zoe great service with my colors?
you.
You
Yes, you did.
see my microphone? I know it's
Yeah.
not that green, but it's
No,
pretty
that
close.
was the first thing I did. I was like, I was like, wow, he has a green microphone. But I appreciate your time. I appreciate you sharing her story. I think that, we just have a unique story because so much has happened and people don't understand the journey. They don't understand that with September is Childhood Cancer Month, like it might not affect your family, but it's affecting other families. There's different ways that you can help besides just saying, oh, let me go in my pocket and to donate. Like people feel like, oh, well, they just want money. It's not just about money. There's so many things you can do to help others, to just volunteer your time. And, it's not just you throwing money out.
And I totally agree with that. It's like my favorite saying is time is our greatest commodity. And a person's time is worth any amount of money. Don't get me wrong, money will help, but a person's time is so invaluable. So again, thank you for coming on. You're always walking back. When that when those things drop, come back on to promote it. Like I said, you have the home here, even though it says Dad is not a noun, but it's all at the end of the day, it's about changing the narrative and having a great conversation. Before we end it, do you have any last thing you want to say?
I want people to just know Zoefia as an inspiration. She wasn't a little girl that wanted people to know she was sick. She never claimed that she was sick. She always told people, I'm not sick. Jesus is healing me. Jesus is making me better. She even said that she dreamt of Jesus. She's like, I dreamt of Jesus. He said, thank you, Zoe. So I'm like, shouldn't you say thank you to him? He said thank you to me. Yeah, so she was that type of a child that, when she didn't have the feeding tube in her nose, no one knew that she was sick. When she was out with her hat on, she was like a regular child, and that's what she wanted to do. That's what most of these, well, pretty much all the cancer kids want. They want to be normal. They want to live a normal life, and they can't, and they don't want the pity party. They don't want people to feel sorry for them. They want to do things on their own. They want to keep trying, and they want to be able to stand on their own. And that's the type of child that she was. And her story and her memory is to bring inspiration to others and let them know, no matter what's going on in your life, like, you can still you can still overcome, you can still define odds, and just be an inspiration to other people.
And that's so true. And on that note, I feel like we live normal lives. Children with cancer live extraordinary lives.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave it like that. And again, thank you for coming on. And we are out. Just make sure you like, subscribe, and please follow this wonderful organization. And we're out. Peace.
Thank you.